The research vessel Asterion moved through deep space like a silent steel island. Its long corridors hummed with power, its wide decks glowed with pale blue lights, and its crew made of several alien species worked with calm, practiced focus. Most days on the ship felt quiet, controlled, and routine. But today was the 9th day of something that did not feel routine at all. On Observation Deck 7, a large glass window looked down into a round containment chamber. Inside that chamber stood a young human woman named Kira, though most of the alien scientists only called her Subject Kira. She paced in slow circles, her steps unsteady. Her hair clung to her face as the overhead lights flickered again, signaling another cycle of the containment resonance test. It was not torture, not in the physical sense. The aliens kept repeating that. It was a controlled sensory field experiment. But to Kira, the strange vibrating lights and shifting sounds felt like being trapped in a storm of confusion. Sometimes, the field made her ears ring. Sometimes it made her eyesight blur. Other times, it made her feel as if the room was tilting, even though she knew it wasn't. For 9 days, she had been inside that room, trying to stay calm, trying to stay strong. And for the same 9 days, they watched her, the alien scientists, the analysts, the observers. All except one. Lieutenant Evan Rourke, the only human officer assigned to the Asterion, stood with hands clenched behind his back as he watched Kira from the observation deck. His jaw tightened every time the lights in the chamber pulsed. He did not look away like the others did. He didn't blink much either. He watched her because he felt responsible, even though he wasn't the one who placed her there, even though he had argued against the experiment. Most people on the Asterion believed Kira posed a threat. They said she had appeared in a restricted zone, carrying a device they could not identify. They said she refused to explain herself clearly. They said she might be lying about her mission. But Evan didn't believe that. Something about the way she stayed calm. The way she tried to speak through the field's effects. The way she kept insisting she was trying to save them. None of it matched the idea of a dangerous infiltrator. The aliens saw her reactions as data points. Evan saw them as pain. Not physical pain, nothing bloody. Nothing brutal, but a kind of emotional stress that no person should experience alone. He exhaled slowly, trying to stay composed. "Lieutenant Rourke," said a soft voice beside him. It belonged to Dr. Halrin, the lead scientist for the test. Halrin was a tall, gray-skinned Sarathi with 4 eyes that blinked out of sync. "You appear troubled again." Evan did not take his eyes off the chamber. "She's exhausted. This is the 9th day." "Yes," Halrin replied calmly, "but human endurance is remarkable. And so far, the test has not caused any permanent harm." "It's not harm you can measure," Evan said quietly. Halrin tilted his head. "The mental strain, you mean?" Evan finally looked at him. "She's scared. She's confused. And she thinks no one is listening." Halrin blinked all 4 eyes. "We are listening. That is the purpose of observation." "No," Evan said, voice firm. "You're studying." Halrin paused, considering the difference. Evan could tell he didn't understand. "The resonance field is necessary," Halrin continued. "Her claim of a sector-wide quantum collapse is extraordinary. We need proof. We need to confirm she is not manipulating us with false information." "And you think these tests will make her talk?" Evan asked. "We think the field may reveal signs of deception," Halrin said. "Our species can detect subtle neurological patterns when a subject is under controlled stress." Evan shook his head. "Humans don't respond well to this kind of stress. And she hasn't lied once. She's been saying the same thing since the moment you caught her." Halrin's expression remained unreadable. "Still, we must be sure." Evan looked back at Kira. Inside the chamber, she had stopped pacing. She stood still now, leaning lightly against the curved wall. Her shoulders rose and fell in slow breaths. For a moment, the resonance field dimmed. and the room fell quiet. Kira lifted her head. Her eyes drifted up toward the observation window. At first, it looked like she was only staring blankly, too tired to focus. But then, her gaze sharpened. She saw the figures behind the glass. And then she seemed to recognize one of them. Her eyes met Evan's. Even from the distance, Evan felt something tighten in his chest. Her expression was not angry. It wasn't pleading either. It was simply tired in a way that made Evan's stomach twist. Halren noticed the glance. "She looks at you often," he said in his calm voice. "Perhaps because you are human. She may believe she will find sympathy in you." "She already has," Evan said before he could stop himself. Halren looked confused. "Is that a problem?" Evan didn't answer. He didn't trust himself to. An alarm chirped softly as the next test cycle prepared to activate. A soft vibration passed through the deck floor, signaling the system's restart. Kira winced as the lights shifted again, nothing graphic, nothing physically harmful, but clearly uncomfortable, the way a high-pitched noise or disorienting light would affect any person. "Begin Cycle 9, a technician announced. Evan stepped forward. Halren raised a hand. "She needs rest," Evan said firmly. "Even machines need calibration breaks. She's a person." "But the test is safe," Halren insisted. "We have run thousands of simulations." "Simulations aren't people," Evan replied. Halren's eyes softened a fraction. "I understand your emotional concern, Lieutenant. Truly. But we cannot pause the test until we have verified her warnings." Evan turned toward him. "And if she collapses, before you get your proof?" "She will not collapse," Halren said. "Humans are stronger than you think." Evan almost laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Yes," he said. "We are. But we break too." He looked back through the glass. Kira had not collapsed, but she had sunk to her knees. Not from physical damage, just from exhaustion. Her hands pressed lightly against the floor to keep herself steady. The resonance field made the air ripple around her. For a moment, Evan hated the observation window. It felt like a barrier designed to make people forget the person behind it. Halren placed one long hand on the control panel. "This cycle is mild. If she is truthful, the readings will show it soon. Then we can end the test. And if she's telling the truth," Evan said quietly, "you'll regret that it took 9 days to believe her." Halren did not respond to that. A long minute passed. Kira lifted her head again. Her eyes searched for the window. When she found Evan's face, she didn't look away. There was something in her gaze he had not seen before, something like a silent message. Or maybe a plea. Or maybe simply the need to be seen by someone who understood. Evan stepped closer to the glass without thinking. Kira's lips moved. He couldn't hear the words through the soundproof walls, but he could read the shape of them. "Please." Evan's breath caught. Not "please stop." Not "please help." Just "please." A word that carried every emotion she didn't have strength left to express. Evan turned sharply. Halren frowned. "Lieutenant, that's an order." Halren blinked. "You do not outrank me." Evan knew that. He knew he had no authority here. But in that moment, he didn't care. He stared at Halren with a look the Sarathi scientist had never seen from a human before, determination mixed with something far deeper. Halren hesitated. Evan waited. Kira trembled slightly in the chamber. Finally, Halren sighed. "Very well. End Cycle 9. Finally. 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 Finally." The resonance field shut down. The lights steadied. The ripple in the air faded away. Kira slumped against the wall with a relieved exhale. Evan closed his eyes for a moment, grateful. But when he opened them again, he saw that Kira was still looking at him. Not with fear, not anymore, but with a strange, quiet focus, as if she was trying to tell him something important, as if she believed he would understand, even when no one else would. Evan took a slow breath. He didn't know it yet, But this was the moment that would change everything for Kira, for him, and for the entire galaxy. Because he was the only human, with a heart willing to intervene. The lights inside the containment chamber stayed steady for the first time in hours. Kira sat with her back against the curved wall, breathing slowly, as if saving every bit of strength she had left. Her eyes stayed open, but they looked unfocused, like her mind was far away. Evan Rourke watched her from the observation deck, his hands still tight at his sides. He did not regret forcing Halloran to stop the test. He only regretted that he had not done it earlier. When the chamber lights dimmed to their resting level, Halloran turned to him. "Her readings will stabilize shortly," the scientist said. "After that, we can evaluate the next steps." Evan looked sharply at him. "There are no next steps. She needs answers. She needs to be heard." Halloran tilted his head in that puzzled way his species often did. "She has spoken, many times. But her claims remain unverified. A human arriving in a restricted zone with an unknown device is suspicious, Lieutenant." "Not if she was trying to warn us," Evan replied. "Warnings can be lies," Halloran said calmly. "And 9 days of tests haven't proven that," Evan shot back. Halloran blinked, all 4 eyes slowly. "Then perhaps she believes her own deception." Evan didn't answer. He didn't trust himself to stay calm if he did. He turned away from the window. He needed space. He needed to think. The corridor outside Observation Deck 7 was quiet, lit with the same cool blue glow as the rest of the Asterion. Alien officers passed by in small groups, barely noticing him. Most of them still saw humans as unpredictable, emotional beings, useful in some situations, but not fully trusted. Evan walked until he reached the small lounge area meant for off-duty crew. There, he sank into a seat near the large viewport showing the stars. He stared at the distant lights, then rubbed a hand across his forehead. Why won't they listen? Why won't they even consider she's telling the truth? He remembered the moment they found Kira, a scared but determined young woman holding a strange, handheld device that glowed with faint symbols. She had said she had information about a coming disaster, something that would affect entire sectors of space. But before she could explain fully, the aliens panicked. They assumed she was carrying a weapon or some kind of sabotage tool. They arrested her, activated containment protocols, and began the tests. And Evan had been too slow to stop them. He closed his eyes for a brief moment. This wasn't how humanity was supposed to be part of the coalition. They had joined to build trust, to share knowledge, not to stand by while people suffered. Even if the person wasn't one of their own. A soft chime startled him out of his thoughts. It came from the small console on his wrist. A message. "Lieutenant Rourke, please report to Research Bay 2. The sender, Dr. Halloran." Evan sighed and stood up. At least Halloran was willing to talk. That was something. He made his way through the ship until he reached Research Bay 2. The doors opened with a gentle hiss, revealing Halloran and 2 other alien technicians standing around a holographic display. Halloran looked up. "Thank you for coming, Lieutenant." "What is this?" Evan asked. Halloran turned the hologram slightly so Evan could see. It showed a rotating image of the device they had taken from Kira, the one that had caused all the trouble. Lines of alien script scrolled beside it. "This is the object she carried," Halloran said. "We have been scanning it since her capture. And we found something new." Evan stepped closer. The hologram zoomed in on the device. A thin line of energy pulsed across its surface like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Evan asked. "A temporal signature," Halloran replied. "Not dangerous, but unusual." Evan frowned. "Meaning?" "It means the device comes from a region of space affected by unstable quantum activity," Halloran said. "A region that matches the area she claimed will collapse." Evan's heart skipped slightly. So she was telling the truth? Halloran lifted a hand. "It suggests her claim may not be entirely false, but it does not confirm a collapse. It may simply be residual energy from a malfunctioning machine. Evan shook his head. No. She wasn't carrying a broken gadget. Just for fun. She came here for a reason. Halrin hesitated. For the first time in many cycles, he looked unsure. Perhaps, but we need more information. And the only person who can give it to us is her. Evan met his eyes. Then talk to her. Ask her like a person, not a subject. Halrin blinked slowly again. If you believe that will make a difference, Lieutenant, then I will allow you to speak with her directly. Evan froze. You're letting me go in? He asked, surprised. Yes, Halrin said. But only you. Humans communicate with each other in ways our species sometimes cannot understand. Maybe she will respond better to you. Evan nodded once. Thank you. Halrin gestured toward the corridor. The chamber has been secured for conversation. She is resting now. When you are ready, I will authorize entry. Evan felt a strange mix of nerves and determination as he walked back toward the containment wing. The hallways seemed quieter than before, or maybe his mind was too focused to notice the usual background sounds of the ship. When he reached the chamber entrance, Halrin and a security officer stood waiting. Halrin pressed a key on the panel. The resonance field is off, he said. You may speak to her, but do not remove her restraints. Understood, Evan replied. The doors slid open. For the first time in 9 days, Evan stepped inside. The containment chamber felt larger from the inside. The walls curved smoothly, with no sharp edges anywhere. The air was cool, but not uncomfortable. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling. Kira sat on a small bench near the center, her back straight, her expression blank from exhaustion. She didn't look up at first, not until she heard his footsteps. When she did, her eyes widened slightly. You, she whispered softly. Evan walked closer but stayed several feet away, giving her space. My name is Evan Rourke, he said gently. I'm the human liaison on this ship. I know, she said. Her voice was tired, but steady. You're the only one who watches without cold eyes. Evan felt a small ache in his chest at her words. I'm sorry for everything, he said. They didn't understand your message, but I'm here now. I want to help. Kira studied his face for a moment, as if checking whether he truly meant it. You believe me? She asked. Yes, Evan said. I always did. Kira closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering strength. When she spoke again, her voice carried more urgency. The collapse is real, she said. I didn't have time to explain before they seized me. I was trying to reach the coalition, because they're the only ones with the resources to stop it. Evan leaned forward. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Kira took a slow breath. 3 months ago, my team detected strange readings from Sector 14G. Fluctuations in quantum fields. Something impossible. Something unnatural. At first we thought it was a malfunction in our equipment, but then the readings grew stronger. She looked up at him. Eyes sharp, despite her exhaustion. It's spreading, she said. If nothing is done, the entire sector will collapse in on itself. It won't cause explosions or fire. It will just disappear. Quietly. Completely. Evan felt a chill run down his spine. How much time do we have? He asked quietly. 3 days. Kira answered. Evan opened his mouth in shock. 3? Yes, she said. I was trying to deliver the data. The device you took from me, it has everything. The maps, the energy signatures, the predicted collapse pattern, but they didn't let me show them. Evan clenched his jaw. They were afraid. They should be, Kira said. Not of me, of what's coming. Evan took a step closer. I'll make them listen. I promise. Kira looked at him with a faint, tired smile. That's why I endured it. I hoped there was at least one human on this ship who still cared. Evan's chest tightened again. "You won't endure anything else," he said firmly. Not alone. For the first time in days, hope touched Kira's eyes. Outside the chamber, Halrin watched the two humans through the observation window. For the first time, even the alien scientist felt uncertain, as if something important was shifting, something he had never expected to witness on his ship. And soon, he would realize, human compassion was not a weakness. It was the only thing strong enough to change the fate of galaxies. The moment Evan stepped out of the containment chamber, he knew everything had changed. The hallway felt tighter, the air felt heavier, and the familiar hum of the Asterion sounded louder than before. For 9 days, he had walked past these walls, feeling helpless. But not anymore. Now he had a mission. And he had a truth the aliens could no longer ignore. Dr. Halrin stood by the doors with a strange expression, something between confusion and concern. Evan faced him with a calm but firm voice. "Everything. And you need to hear it too." Halrin's 4 eyes blinked in unease. "Before that, I must remind you that your presence in the chamber was only authorized for communication, not assistance." "I didn't assist her," Evan said. "I listened." Halrin paused. "Humans and their emotional focus." He sighed. "Very well. Let us discuss what she said." But Evan shook his head. "Not here, and not with only you. The entire command council needs to hear it." Halrin stiffened. "That is not a decision you can make." "No," Evan said. "But it's a decision you need to make." Halrin stared at him for several long seconds. Evan didn't look away. Finally, Halrin said, "Come with me." The walk to the command council room felt long, but Evan's mind stayed sharp. He replayed Kira's words, her warning, her calm fear, her quiet strength. 3 days until the collapse. 3 days until an entire sector vanished. He had to make them listen. Inside the council chamber, 8 alien leaders sat around a large circular table projecting soft blue light. Their faces reflected different colors: silver, green, violet, depending on their species. They turned their eyes on Evan and Halrin as they entered. Counselor Velnar, a tall Vastran with glowing skin, spoke first. "Dr. Halrin, Lieutenant, why have you called an emergency session?" Halrin glanced at Evan, then stepped forward. Murmurs rose across the room. Commander Ular, a stern reptilian officer, narrowed his eyes. Evan stepped forward before Halrin could speak. All eyes turned to him. Evan continued. "Her device showed a temporal signature. You saw the readings yourselves. They matched the unstable region in Sector 14G. Counselor Velnar frowned. "That only proves she visited the region, not that a collapse is coming." "She explained everything," Evan said. "The collapse, the data, the countdown. And she was right, her device is a recorder, a warning tool." A silence settled over the council chamber. Then Commander Ular hissed quietly. "Even if this were true, why would she come alone? Why would her government not inform us directly?" "She tried," Evan said. "Her team died before they could send the message. She escaped with the data, and came here because we're the nearest advanced fleet." The room shifted, with uneasy movement. Counselor Velnar leaned forward. "Lieutenant Rourke, why do you believe her?" Evan could have given many answers, but he chose the simplest one. "Because humans know the difference between fear and honesty," he said. "And when she talks, she is not afraid for herself. She is afraid for all of us." The room grew quiet again. Finally, Halrin spoke. "The scans do show unusual readings, and Lieutenant Rourke is correct, she has not changed her story once." Commander Ular looked frustrated. "Even if she is truthful, we cannot react to a crisis we have not fully verified." Evan took a breath. Then he said the words that changed the room. "If you wait for full verification, it will be too late." Hours later, after a long and heated debate, the council ended the meeting without a clear decision. They promised to review the evidence, but their hesitation told Evan everything. They still didn't believe her. They still didn't believe him. He walked out of the chamber, feeling more frustrated than before. They cared about logic, data, and rules, but not urgency, not humanity, and not Kira. He stopped in the quiet corridor, pressing his palms against the cold wall. Think, he whispered to himself. There has to be another way. And then he realized there was. Kira didn't need the Council's permission. She only needed her data to reach the ship's main systems. If the entire crew saw the evidence, if the ship's AI confirmed the collapse, no one would be able to ignore it. But she was locked in containment, and the device was stored in a secure lab. Evan straightened slowly. It was impossible. It was dangerous. And he had no choice. He returned to the containment wing an hour later. The guards nodded at him. Humans were unpredictable. But he had clearance. They assumed he was back for observation duty. He wasn't. He waited until the guards turned to change shifts, then slipped through the chamber door. Kira looked up in surprise. Evan? He closed the door behind him. Her eyes sharpened. They didn't listen? Some of them did, Evan said. Not enough. Kira nodded sadly. I thought so. Evan stepped closer. But I have a plan. It's risky. Maybe stupid. A faint smile touched her lips. Humans are good at that. Evan almost smiled back. I'm going to get your device from the lab. Then we put the data into the main communications hub. The whole ship will see it. They won't be able to deny it. Kira stared at him, stunned. You'd break protocol for me? For all of us, Evan said. For the truth. Her eyes softened. Then I'll help you. Evan nodded. I can disable the local locks. But once we leave, the alarms will trigger. Then we move fast, Kira said. Evan took a deep breath. Let's do it. The first step was freeing Kira. Evan walked to the control panel and entered his officer code, something he had never thought he would use like this. The restraints around her wrists released with a soft click. Kira flexed her hands, wincing slightly. Feels strange to move again. Evan offered an arm to steady her. She accepted it with a quiet nod. Ready? He asked. Ready, she said. He opened the chamber door. And the real danger began. They moved through the secondary maintenance corridors, narrow passages rarely used by the main crew. Evan knew them well. He had spent months studying the ship's layout. He had always believed knowledge kept people safe. Tonight, it kept them alive. As they slipped through shadows, Evan whispered instructions. Turn left here. Stay close. Don't step near the motion sensor. Kira followed without hesitation. Despite her exhaustion, she stayed focused. Her determination kept her moving. Finally, they reached Research Bay 2. Inside, the lab was quiet. The device sat on a glass platform, its faint energy pulse glowing softly. Evan's heartbeat quickened. That's it, Kira whispered. He entered the override code Halrin had shown him earlier. Halrin expected him to study the readings, not steal the device. The glass cover rose smoothly. Kira took the device with both hands. Her fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from relief. I never thought I'd see this again, she said softly. Evan nodded. Then let's finish this. But the moment they turned toward the door, a loud alarm blared across the entire bay. Red lights flashed. A robotic voice echoed through the ship. Security breach detected in Research Bay 2. All units respond. Kira inhaled sharply. Evan grabbed her hand. Run! And together, they sprinted into the corridor as the ship came alive with alarms and approaching footsteps. For the first time in 9 days, Kira was free. For the first time in 9 days, the truth had a chance to be heard. And for the first time in his life, Evan Rourke was doing something truly impossible. Something only a human would dare. The alarm continued to blare across the Asterion. echoing through every hallway and shaking every deck. Red lights flashed along the walls, guiding security teams toward Research Bay 2. Footsteps and metallic clanks grew louder behind Evan and Kira as they ran. Kira held the device pressed tightly against her chest. Evan stayed slightly ahead, clearing the path, watching every corner. "How far to the communications hub?" she asked breathlessly. "4 decks up," Evan replied. "But we can't take the main lifts. They'll trap us." Kira nodded, trusting him completely. "Then, lead the way." He guided her into a narrow maintenance tunnel, one that twisted behind the ship's large energy conduits. It was dark, cramped, and smelled faintly like overheated circuits. But it offered one advantage. No guards ever patrolled here. They moved quickly but carefully. The metal floor echoed under their steps, and every sound felt too loud. More than once, Evan stopped suddenly, pulling Kira back as security teams rushed by on the other side of the tunnel walls. "They're searching for us in every direction," Kira whispered. "They don't know where we're going," Evan said. "And they won't expect humans to crawl through these tiny spaces," Kira added with a tired smile. Evan almost smiled too. One benefit of being underestimated. They continued their climb upward through grated ladders and tight passages. Kira's breathing grew heavy, but she didn't complain. She just kept going, powered by determination, more than strength. At last, they reached a small hatch that opened into a quiet hallway on deck 11. Evan checked both sides. "All clear," he whispered. He helped Kira through. She exhaled with relief as she stood upright again. "Communications hub is 2 corridors down," Evan said. "Once we get inside, we upload your data. The ship's AI will run the analysis instantly. And the whole crew will see it," Kira said. "They'll have to respond." "They will," Evan promised. For the first time in days, hope lit Kira's face. But the moment they turned the corner, a squad of alien security officers appeared at the other end of the hallway. Both groups froze. "Kira." They sprinted. The security team shouted commands and rushed forward. Evan led Kira down another hall, zigzagging around corners. He knew the path, but the guards were fast and trained. "We can't outrun all of them," Kira said. "We're not trying to outrun them," Evan replied. "Just reach the hub." The doors to the communications hub came into view, tall, silver, guarded by a transparent barrier. But before Evan could reach it, the security team rounded the corner behind them. "Stop immediately," one guard shouted. Evan grabbed Kira's wrist. Through the side door, he pointed to a smaller access hatch beside the main hub entrance. It was a maintenance route, one he remembered studying months ago. He keyed in his officer code with shaking hands. The hatch opened. "Inside," he said. Kira slipped through. Evan followed and sealed the door as the guards approached. Inside the maintenance shaft, the hum of communication machinery vibrated through the walls. "We're close," Kira whispered. Evan nodded, breathless. "The main console is just ahead." They crawled forward until the shaft opened into a small control alcove that overlooked the communications hub from above. Below them, large holographic screens glowed softly, showing message traffic, ship diagnostics, and navigation feeds. Kira pressed her hand against the transparent panel. "We just need to plug in the device. And hope the ship doesn't lock us out," Evan added. Kira looked at him. "Even if it does, we've come too far to stop." Evan nodded. "Let's finish this." They dropped down into the hub through a small service hatch. Evan helped Kira land safely. The hub was empty. Most crew were busy responding to the alarm. Kira moved quickly to the central console. She attached her device to the input port. The screens flickered. Then a soft, calm voice echoed from the hub's speakers. "External data source detected. Running diagnostic." Kira held her breath. The holographic screens filled with glowing lines and charts. Maps of Sector 14G appeared, showing strange distortions. Then the AI processed the data further, overlaying collapse patterns, predicted timelines, and energy fluctuations. Evan watched the information spreading across every screen in the room. It's working. Kira placed a hand on the console. Please, show them. The AI's voice returned. Warning, quantum instability confirmed. Sector collapse projected in 71 hours. Evan's heart pounded. Kira closed her eyes in relief. Then the AI said, broadcasting data to ship-wide displays. All across the Asterion, screens lit up with the same warning. Crew members froze at their stations. Officers turned toward monitors in shock. The command council's chamber flickered with emergency visuals. Everyone saw the truth. Everyone saw Kira's warning. And no one could ignore it now. The hub doors burst open. Security officers rushed in, weapons lowered but ready. Step away from the console, Ular commanded. Kira and Evan didn't move. There was no need to. The data had already been broadcast. Halloran pushed past the guards. His expression looked different, not cold, not analytical, but shaken. Lieutenant Rourke. Kira, he said slowly. The ship's AI confirmed it. Yes, Evan said quietly. She's been telling the truth from the beginning. Halloran lowered his head. I am sorry. We misunderstood you. Commander Euler looked frustrated. But even he could not deny the evidence on the screens. The collapse is real, he said. We must prepare the fleet. Kira stood straighter, though her legs still trembled. There's more. I know how to slow it down. But I can't do it alone. Halloran stepped forward. Tell us what you need. The next hours were a blur of activity. Kira explained how the collapse could be slowed using a network of temporal stabilizers placed around the unstable region. The Asterion had the equipment advanced prototypes never used before. The aliens feared they were too dangerous. But Kira and Evan knew they didn't have a choice. The fleet moved quickly, jumping to Sector 14G. The view from the ship's windows showed a strange, shimmering cloud spreading through the starfield, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Kira worked beside the ship's engineers, guiding them through the setup. Evan stayed close, helping her whenever she weakened. She had endured more than anyone on the ship, yet she kept going. Almost there, she whispered, as she typed commands into the stabilizer control panel. Evan steadied her. You can do this. She smiled weakly. The stabilizers activated. A soft hum filled the ship. A gentle sound. Not dangerous, just powerful. Lines of light spread through space, weaving a net around the collapsing region. The shimmering cloud slowed. The AI confirmed. Collapse progression reduced. Sector stabilization achieved. The crew cheered. Halloran closed his eyes, relieved. Even Commander Ular nodded in respect. Kira leaned heavily against Evan, exhausted but smiling. We did it. Evan supported her gently. No, you did it. I just followed your lead. Kira shook her head. You were the only one who saw me as a person. Evan met her gaze. No one should suffer alone. She nodded softly. That's what makes humans different. Later, as the Asterion drifted safely above the now stable sector, the Command Council held a small gathering in honor of Kira and Evan. Counselor Velnar spoke. Today, we learned that compassion is not a weakness, and we owe our survival to the bravery of two humans. One who carried a warning, and one who had the heart to believe it. Kira stood beside Evan, her eyes bright but peaceful. Evan looked out at the gathered crew and felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had always believed humans had something special. A stubborn kindness. A refusal to look away. Today proved it. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Humanity's echo had reached the galaxy, and the galaxy would never forget it.